ball to Menenti, but half centuries from Colin Ingram, and Tim David also making his debut today for Hobart Hurricanes, got them up to 178 for 8. David making 58 from 33 balls. Now we've got a couple of things to focus on. One is the winning score, which is 179 for the Sydney Sixers. The other one is for 1 point. Now to do that they need to score 73 from the first 10 overs, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they approach it. Do they really go for it and sacrifice potentially winning the game for the 1 point, or how do they play? I mean, that's the balance for the batting side on the chase in this season's Big Bash, because that's one of the changes. The halfway scores are matched up, and if you are ahead at the halfway point you get 1 point. If they're dead level then it's no points, and we just have the 3 points for a win at the end. 3 points up from 2 from last season, with the extra point for being ahead after 10 overs as well. We've also seen today, well, it's in place but no one has used it, the X Factor subs. Poor old Lloyd Pope, Justin Avendano, Caleb Jewell and Nick Winter. They've been sitting on the sidelines watching on. They have not been employed after the 10 over mark of the first inning, so no X Factor subs used today in this match. And what's our other change? Oh, the power surge, the 2 over power surge, which actually was a bit brutal on Steve O'Keefe to start with, because his first 3 balls were hit for 4. He was bowling in the power play in the 15th over, so after 14 overs they decided to use the 2 over power play, which is another change this season. Tamal Mills is alongside. What have you made of it so far, the changes, Tamal? Sort of low key with the subs because they didn't happen. The halfway point, I suppose, is yet to happen, isn't it? And we'll see how that works out. What did you make of the power play situation?
Yeah, sorry, make sure I'm plugged in. So it's very small sample size, isn't it? We can't read too much into it. The only problem I'm seeing as a bowler, of course, is it looked as if so Steve O'Keefe came on to bowl the 14th over, and then Colin Ingram and Tim David said, okay, yeah, we're going to take the batting, the power surge now. And from what I understand is that Sydney Sixers couldn't then change the bowler. So I would have thought that if they knew that the Hobart Hurricanes were going to take the batting power surge, that Steve O'Keefe probably wouldn't have bowled that over, being a left-arm spinner. So that's a slight disadvantage, or a big disadvantage, to the bowling side, in my opinion. But as we all know, it's not a game about bowlers, isn't it? It's a game about batsmen and run scoring. So I got my violin in the back of the box there. I'll get it out in a second. So yeah, I think that might be a common theme now for the rest of the IPL. The rest of the Big Bash, where if a spinner comes on at any kind of mid to late part of the innings and you have a couple of well set batsmen, they're going to take advantage of that and use the power surge. It could even be a tactic against the likes of Rashid Khan, who you could normally bank on for 4 overs for 23, 24. A team might say, you know what, we're going to gamble here and we're going to take our batting power surge against him and take away, or hopefully take away, one of his overs that he's bowling in the middle. So it could be it'd be interesting to see how that tactic develops. We'll see how the Sydney Sixers choose to use their batting power surge later on in the innings, in half an hour, 45 minutes or so time. But yeah, so far obviously no substitutions. We'll see how they work as the competition goes on as well. But yeah, so far so good, I think. Yeah, it's hard to know actually with the substitutes what you're going to do with it. When they were used in the past in one-day internationals, you could make a change, I mean, right at the start of the game, and it was absurd. So there was a big advantage to the team winning the toss, because you could then suddenly change your team based on winning the toss. Yeah. And that didn't work, and I think everyone accepted it didn't work, but it was just abandoned. But now you can't use your sub until after the first 10 overs of the first innings, and that's when you can use it, at that point, and that's it. Which actually does seem a bit strange if you've got a sub and you then get an injury. Say if you get an injury in the 15th over, but you've got the subs but you can't use them. Yeah. It's anyway, they'll gradually sort something out and see whether it works or doesn't work, or whether it needs amending. We're waiting for the start of the Sydney Sixers innings. It seems a very long delay or gap between the two innings, really. But the crowd are in as such. I mean, it's not a big crowd at the Bell Reeve this evening. Here come the Hobart Hurricanes team in purple, making their way back onto the field.
looking to defend 178 for 8. Yeah, it's not a big crowd. It's not a warm evening, not by any means. It's if you think about England in sort of mid-September, something like that, it's that sort of evening. It's chilly, and not a great evening necessarily for watching cricket, unless you've got a bobble hat and a scarf and a thermal vest. Don't think of Australia like that, but Hobart is a bit like that down on the...
Hobart is as close to kind of the UK as you're going to get in terms of most things really, but the weather obviously being one as well. You can get some really cold nights. Obviously, Hobart being largely on the coast and Belrive Oval right on the beachfront, you do get, if there is a cold wind coming in, you definitely feel it. But it's better than being in England in December, I'll say.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I think we can take that as read. I remember my first trip to Hobart, landing, and it was 37 degrees in Hobart, and the next day the wind changed and it was 17 degrees.
Good swing that.
That was incredible. 20-degree swing in less than 24 hours. It was really, really weird.
Yeah, I remember when I flew in for the Big Bash my first year, obviously fly into Melbourne, had a couple of hours changeover, then flew into Hobart, and I'm normally a very confident, very relaxed flyer, but the wind was up as we were coming in and the plane was rocking side to side as we came down to land, and it was one of those. It got a little round of applause from the rest of the cabin when we landed, because we were coming in on such a wind and the plane was going, as I said, back side to side, and I was worried for a second, but the pilot did an amazing job and got us down.
Yeah, across the Bass Strait it can be a bit dodgy sometimes. I think I've had one or two of those going actually from Tasmania back into Melbourne. Anyway, that's all our yesterdays and our flying stories. Probably everyone listening has had a flying story from their experience of going around the world. Right, it's going to be Faulkner to bowl the first ball of the innings. And he moves in, left arm over the wicket to Philippi. Oh, he struck on the pad first ball. It's a big shout for LBW. Faulkner really wants that. I'm not surprised as well, because it would be the big wicket of Josh Philippi. It's not given. And what's Faulkner going to do here?
Just whether it pitched outside leg for me. Left arm over, looking to swing the ball back in. It definitely straightened after it pitched. Philippi did go across his stumps. It was very close to whether that pitched inside the line of leg stump or not. The umpire decided that for him it didn't.
It was a really confident shout. 179 to win. And here is Faulkner moving in to bowl to Philippi, the right-hander who offers the single to his non-striking partner Edwards there. He says, basically, do you want it? I think I can get it, right? They're just putting the technology on that LBW shout, pitching on, and clipping the top of Midland leg. So it's one of those umpires' calls, really.
Do they have reviews in this year's Big Bash, DRS?
It's a good question. You're so used to having reviews now. I was 178 to win off 118 balls. Philippi off the mark with a single. Faulkner bowls a slower ball, which is clipped away by Edwards towards deep square leg, and they go through for a single. And so it's 2 for no wicket in this first over. So 73 for the 1 point for the Sixers, and if Hobart Hurricanes can keep them under 72, then they will get the point. So 4 points on offer in the next hour and 20 minutes or so. Faulkner goes in and bowls. That's another big shout for LBW. This time it is out. Given out by umpire Paul Wilson. It was full to Philippi. It wasn't out early in the over. This one was. It looked a really good shout, that one, unless there was an inside edge on it. That's the only thing you thought that was going to save Josh Philippi there. Moving across his stumps, it swung back into a fraction, and that looked as plum gets with a left arm over bowler in operation. And umpire Paul Wilson, he thought about it for a moment and then raised the dreaded finger as far as Philippi is concerned, and Faulkner's got his wicket.
Yeah, that's the dream as a left arm over bowler, as you say. That ball definitely fuller than the one we saw at the start of the innings. Swinging back in, Philippi looking to whip it to the leg side. Missed it by a long way in the end. A little bit of swing back in from James Faulkner. Philippi, the talented young Australian batsman, just spent some time playing in the IPL for the Royal Challengers Bangalore. He's got to go for one. James Faulkner has the first wicket, and that brings James Vince to the crease for his first taste of Big Bash action this year.
Yep. No reviews, Tamal.
It's a shame.
In the Big Bash.
All these innovations, all these new rules,
it does seem strange,
they don't have what's now probably the most common form of innovation in world cricket.
Yeah, it does seem weird. Anyway, Vince is in at number 3. We're so used to seeing the review system in operation that when it's not there, it just feels odd now. Whether Faulkner would have reviewed that, well, if he had reviewed it, it would have been, I think it would have been not out. Umpire's call, but they wouldn't have lost the review. It was one of those. Faulkner bowls, clipped away by Vince nicely, elegantly into the onside. Little flick of the wrist there. Gets him a single because they have a man on the deep mid-wicket boundary. The Hobart Hurricanes, who are defending 178 for 8. You're listening to 5 Live Sports Extra, the first match of this season's Big Bash, the 10th edition of the Big Bash, going through to early February with all sorts of changes this season. Now Edwards faces Faulkner, and he plays quietly into the offside, defending it out towards cover. Ingram comes in. Ingram, who made that half century earlier to get Hobart up to 178 for 8. It's the end of the first over. 3 for 1 is the score. Sydney Sixers in pursuit of 73 to start with, and then ultimately 179. Both Vince and Edwards have a single, and Philippi out for naught. So at least Edwards has achieved something of note today. He's the first opener today not to be dismissed for naught. We've seen I don't know how often that's happened, actually. 3 openers in a T20 match out for naught, but not as far as Jack Edwards is concerned. He's got that vital single. So here's Johan Botha to bowl the first over at the other end. They put the technology on that LBW shout that was given out against Josh Philippi, and it confirmed, I think, what everyone watching it thought, that it was plumb. So Philippi on his way for naught. Philippi, who's over in England in the summer, but we didn't see him in action. Talk about those bubbles. It must be very difficult. Jonathan and Michael were talking about that during the break. Here is Vince clipping Botha's first ball into the onside for a single. That you come over, it's great to be part of cricket, but if you don't play, if you're just supporting the whole time, you're in the nets, you don't actually get in the middle. It must be hard for players who don't play a great deal, and there were a few in the IPL like that who didn't play a lot, and there were a few Australians as well who didn't play very much. You also think of someone like Jack Leach last summer, who barely bowled a ball really all summer. Edwards comes forward and clips that up towards long on, and gets a single. The score goes to 5 for 1 in the second over. So it's hard enough in that bubble as it is when you're playing, but if you're not playing, then it's really not easy at all. I know there's all sorts of degrees of hardship in these COVID times. It's about your own personal experience, I suppose. 5 for 1 in the second over. Vince clips that through mid-wicket. That's another fine shot from Vince, and got 2 fielders converging, and neither got there. And Vince played that beautiful, lovely flick again, that turn of the wrists into the onside. They really like him at the Sixers, James Vince, and he's one of those players that when he's going, you just think that there's a very successful international cricketer in there. I often think that about James Vince, and then he nicks off for 22 or something. Vince pushes that into the offside, just to the left of extra cover, and they get another single. Vince goes to 7, and the score to 10 for 1 in the second over.
Yeah, definitely. I've played obviously a lot against James Vince in county cricket and in T20 franchise cricket around the world, and he definitely has that aura about him when you're playing against him, that okay, he's a big wicket, he's one you need to get out, because he plays the game so easily at times.
Edwards on the strike. I'll read an email out from James in just a moment. It's a good one. This is Edwards guiding it through the offside, giving himself some room, and plays that beautifully for 4. Again, not all about power there. It was about just that batsmanship, really, skill, timing and placement. James Rowe says, great to hear the BBL being covered. Can't help but feel the new rules massively help the side batting second, as they can use the 10 over target to guide their chase. And this is where it gets complicated. Actually, this has crossed my mind, James. Here is Edwards on strike to Botha, and Edwards again goes leg side. Botha bowls him a straight ball, and he defends it back to the bowler, and there's no run. It's 14 for 1 after 2 overs, 179 to win, 73 for the halfway point. What happens in a rain-affected match with a 10-over bonus point? If it's reduced to 12 overs each, is it 6 overs? If the first team bat the full 20 overs, the second team have only 8 overs, is it a DLS score at a 4-over mark? Well, I mean, we will get situations like that as time goes on, and it's not easy for everyone to get their heads around that. I suppose the one thing with Australia, I mean, it does rain in Australia, obviously, but it doesn't rain quite as much. It's the sort of thing that you definitely need to know as far as England's concerned. Vince plays another delightful shot into the offside as Faulkner begins a new over. It was outside the off stump, and he drove it, he caressed it wide of mid-off for 4 to take him to 11 and his team to 18 for 1 at the start of the 3rd over. We'll get Henry on that just to see whether he's given me one of those. He's given me the evil eyes about what happens to the point if we have a rain-affected match. It could get hugely complicated. Faulkner bowls. Vince drives into the offside. It's half stopped at extra cover. It's parried into a gap, so they go through for a single. And Vince moves on to 12. And it's 19 for 1. The good news is tonight that's not going to be a problem in Hobart. Although it's chilly, no rain is forecast. But it will happen. I've seen games, say in Sydney, where the rain comes down. I imagine it's Duckworth-Lewis. Here's Faulkner bowling. A little dab shot from Edwards goes to the keeper, Hanscom, and there is no run. If the match is impacted by rain in the first innings, the second innings bash boost targets will be recalibrated via the Duckworth-Lewis Stern method. Yeah, as I imagine, but it will get more complicated when that happens. But there'll be revised targets basically. So there's the answer to your question, James, and everyone else as well. 19 for 1 in the 3rd. Faulkner moves in, bowls to Edwards. Edwards comes forward, hits it back to the bowler, who parries it, knocks it towards mid-wicket, where it's picked up by Will Jacks, who had an unhappy start to his Hobart career tonight. One of those 3 openers out for naught. You say, well, naught, it can happen to anyone. Well, clearly tonight there's greater evidence of that, because it's happened to 3 people, 3 openers. 19 for 1. 3rd over. Edwards faces the right-hander, and Faulkner bowls to him and nudges that into the offside, dropping it short of the purple ring on the offside. Through for a single.
Yeah, it just drops his length back a little bit, James Faulkner. Obviously, he went searching for swing in his first over, which he got. See the wicket of Josh Phillippe, that ball swinging back in. It's not quite there for him in the 3rd over. See, that's the problem when you're looking for swing and it's not there. You end up bowling half volleys, and he did to James Vince at the start of the over. He got punished, but since then he's just pulled it back nicely.
Faulkner bowls, and it's a low pull from Vince, taking this from outside the off stump. Again, he's hit it sweetly, but Riley Meredith pulls off a good save on the deep backwards square leg boundary. It was another fine shot from Vince on the pull. It was a low pull as well, not easy ball to time well, so taking it from outside the off stump, but he did hit it sweetly. Takes him to 13. That's the end of 3 overs. 21 for 1. Hard to say at the moment where this game is going. I probably prefer to be in the Hobart Hurricanes' shoes at this stage of the game, but things can change. Remember, they were, well, was it 4 for 2 at one stage? They fought back to get 178 for 8. We've got plenty more Big Bash coming up for you in the next few days and weeks. 61 matches in all. Friday's match that we're bringing you is the Melbourne Stars against the Brisbane Heat. Basically, turn your radio on or whatever, go to wherever you get your cricket online, at around about 10 past 8 every morning. Here's Meredith down the leg side. It's a wide signal, his first ball, signalled by umpire Sam Nagaski. Meredith was another one who was in the bubble. He came to England last summer and didn't play. He's got some pace about him. And I know Shane Warne rates him very highly.
Yeah, straight away he was in there, 147 kilometres an hour. Really, really good lad, Riley. He was kind of just coming through when I was there. If anything, I was probably keeping him out of the side as a fast bowler. But since then, he's really burst onto the scene and in and around the Australian squad as well.
Meredith bowls to Vince. Vince turns it down towards short, fine leg. They're off for a single. The throw comes in and hits the stumps. But Edwards had backed up well and made his ground. Unfortunately, Riley Meredith is another one of those with one of those dodgy moustaches. But there we go. He's a very talented young cricketer, and we might well see him in the international scene. 23 for 1. Start of the 4th over. Now Edwards on strike. Vince has gone to 14 with that single. They're just putting the bails back on. They've done that now, and Meredith sets off to go into bowl to Edwards. Edwards defends, nudging it into the offside, dropping it really onto the surface, and the bails come off again as the throw comes in, underarm from backward point, but Vince is backing up well this time. So it's another single, safely completed. Having a look at the replay, yeah, it's well home. He was almost level with the stumps with his bat. So good backing up, good running. 24 for 1. Edwards moves to 8. I noticed that Meredith has got a little white, what would you call it, sort of handkerchief at the back of his trouser. I wonder if there's going to be a dew factor.
Yeah, there normally is at Hobart, obviously, when the temperature does drop, it can cause a little bit of dew to come in, so worth keeping an eye on that.
And that generally, well, it does. It benefits the batting side. It's a very good delivery from Meredith, right in the block hole, dug out into the onside by Vince for a single. Takes him to 15. And the score to 25 for 1 in the 4th over. Hobart Hurricanes, a reminder, chasing 179 to win. And 73 in the first 10 overs for the point. The halfway point. Meredith turns at 25 for 1. Sets off again. Right arm over the wicket. Into bowl to Edwards. He's up on his toes to a ball that's short of a length, guiding it into the onside, taking off his hip there. It's another single. 26 for 1. And what's been noticeable in this power play, both power plays actually, is they've been some quite conservative efforts from both batting sides. We've not seen those that really extravagant shots, the attempts early on to go over the top or to improvise. Both teams so far have generally played it on merit. Okay, there's been a bit of moving around the crease and trying to access the offside. There's one fine shot from Edwards. There's not been belligerent cricket in these first few overs. That's a fine delivery from Meredith. I think Vince there was trying to open the face and run it down to third man, but over the top of off stump, he missed it. It went flying through to the wicketkeeper.
Yeah, it's a nice ball from Meredith. A little bit of a waste. Seam movement, potentially, as you say, James. Vince looking to just run it down, but that's really good pace as well. 152 kilometres an hour, in and around 94 miles an hour. That is so. Really, really good pace from Meredith. Straight onto the money in his first over. Only gone for 5 so far from his first 5 deliveries. See if he can finish off the over and the first power play.
Meredith moves in, bowls to Vince, and Vince gets a short ball, but he helps on its way down towards fine leg. Oh, there's a missed field down there by Boland, and it's gone for 4. That's shocking fielding. It really is. And as a bowler there,
yeah, you're pretty upset with that. Fellow bowler down at fine leg. You say you bowled a good over, only gone for 5, your first 5 deliveries. You want to get out of your over. Nice single down to fine leg, and then the fielder does let you down. So nobody means to misfield, but you don't think that at the time when it's just cost you 4 runs. You're chuntering back down to your mark now wherever you're fielding. So frustration for the Hurricanes, but that's the end of the batting power play now. Obviously only 4 overs this year, with 2 still to come later on at the batter's discretion, and 6 are 30 for 1.
They were 18 for 2 Hobart Hurricanes at this stage after their power plays. Just emphasise the point about the power plays tonight. See the blankets are out among the spectators.
Glenorchy Cricket Club, that was my team that I was assigned to when I was over there for the Hurricanes. As was the schedule so spread out, we often had to go and play club cricket in between games if there was a T20 on, just to keep ticking over. So I was put with the Glenorchy side out in Hobart.
Here's Nathan Ellis bowling, right arm over the wicket, new over, plays to mid off by Edwards. Again, they go through for a single, 31 for 1. I can just imagine a few club players seeing the Glenorchy lineup and seeing T Mills in there, thinking, I just got a bit of a hamstring strain this week. I'm not sure I can make it. Training was a bit tough on Thursday evening.
It's not because the way grade cricket is in Australia, obviously the standard of club cricket in Australia is obviously much higher than it is in the UK. We've obviously only 6 professional kind of setups in Australia, so it's not unheard of to obviously see.
There's Meredith Ellis bowling, turned into the onside by Vince for another single. He's done this well so far.
So it's very common in Australia for, you know, even the test stars. You see David Warner going to play club cricket, Steve Smith, Shane Watson, these guys still until very recently playing in grade cricket, and if anything it goes the other way in Australia. If they know that the opposition have got a big name, an overseas player or an Australian player coming back to play grade cricket, then they want a piece of. They give you a bit of chirp in the field, the local grade cricketers.
Ellis bowls, Edwards edges through vacant third slip area. It's gone to the boundary for 4. Nothing Bota can do about that on the third man boundary, and Edwards goes to 14 and the Sixers to 36 for 1 midway through the 5th over. I'd still reckon there must be, there's a solicitor playing, a very good club player playing, and he sees your name on the sheet and he's thinking, hold on, 95 miles an hour coming down to my head. It's one thing, say, bowling at David Warner, the challenge of bowling at Warner or Smith or something, or facing Shane Watson or bowling at Watson. Here is Ellis outside the off stump, forced away by Edwards towards backward point, and they're through for a single. What's your fastest ball? We talked about Meredith bowling at 94. What's your fastest
I've got
you've been clocked at?
In and around there, I think around kind of 153 maybe has been my quickest out in the PSL last year, I think. In and around there.
And what happened to that 153 miles per hour ball? 153k.
Yeah, I can't remember, to be honest. It's one of those. The classic was when Nick Knight faced the fastest ever delivery, and he just knocked it into the offside like it was a throwdown.
Ellis bowls to Vince, goes over extra cover. He's hit that well. It's going out towards the boundary. That's gone away for 4, and Vince moves to 24, and the Sixers just beginning to find their range here. 41 for 1, coming to the end of the 5th over. Nathan Ellis had a good season last year for Hobart Hurricanes, but he's disappeared a little bit in this first over. He's gone for 11 so far with 1 ball to bowl.
Yeah, really nice shot from James Vince. Prefers it through the offside. We all know how well he cover drives the ball, and he certainly did that time. Slower ball this time from Nathan Ellis to get out of his over, punches it into the offside where Darcy Short does the fielding, gets the throw in, and that's at the end of the 5th over. 42 for 1 Sydney Sixers.
Yeah, Vince 25, Edwards has 15. 5 Live Sports Extra, the Big Bash 10. Time for Henry Moran to pick up the commentary after a few more thoughts from Timal Mills.
Much better power play for the Sydney Sixers than the Hobart Hurricanes managed earlier on, losing both Will Jacks and Darcy Short for Ducks at the start of their innings. James Vince going really nicely on 25, couple of really nice shots. Jack Edwards at the other end, a little bit more scratchy, 15 from 13, but a good partnership nonetheless. Talking about fast bowling, going for runs, and obviously the fastest deliveries, same in the IPL, wasn't it, this year? I think Amrit Norkia bowled the fastest ball in IPL history, and Josh Butler scooped it for 4, maybe even 6. So just because you bowl fast doesn't always mean you're going to get away with everything.
Well, and the fastest ball ever, if you are to believe the speed gun in South Africa in 2003. That saw Shoaib Akhtar bowling to Nick Knight at north of 100 miles an hour. It was just comfortably played into the leg side by the England batsman, and speaking since, he said, I didn't realise it was that fast. So pace isn't everything, but of course it can be a devastating weapon. Darcy Short into the attack, Vince swivelling, pulling, picking up 4. It was dropped a little bit short. And spin for the Hurricanes at the start of the 6th over, punished by James Vince, who moves on to 29 from just 15 balls.
Yeah, Darcy Short bowling his left-arm Chinaman. Don't see too much of that in professional cricket nowadays, but dragged down straight away, and Vince wasn't going to miss out on that. Straight onto the back foot, straight out the middle of his bat. Raced away for 4.
Short onto the pads, clipped towards short fine leg, and a single is taken to move Vince onto 30. Edwards has 15. One of the two Edwards brothers who normally feature in this Sydney Sixers lineup. They have that look of the sort of the Aussie surfer look. Do you know what I mean? The sort of long flowing blonde hair. But only one Edwards brother on show in this year's IPL. Jack Edwards, 20 years old. He's on strike, working the ball into the leg side behind square, no run. Mickey Edwards, the other brother who's out of this tournament with an injured back. Jack Edwards, he played the 4 matches last year and batted a couple of times, but he's batting high up the order in this game and has 15 from 14. It's a full delivery, worked into the leg side. There'll be 1 taken. There won't be the chance for second as a throw comes in from the deep. And the score 48 for 1 with a couple of balls left of the 6th over. Of course, not a power play over, because the first 4 are power play overs, and then you get the chance to accelerate with 2 overs of your choice post the 11th over as the batting side. This is 1 more into the leg side as fielding off his own bowling is Darcy Short, and the score 49 for 1. It's one of several innovations in this year's Big Bash competition. Another one of those, well, we're keeping our eyes out for the 10 over mark, where a team has the opportunity in the second innings to pick up a bonus point. More in a moment as Darcy Short is in. Outside the off stump, chasing it is Edwards, and it goes through to the gloves of Hanscom behind the stumps, and there's no run. So the over concludes, 7 from it. Good recovery after that boundary initially, and the score is 49 for 1 after 6. Yet 73 is the number to keep an eye on. That is the target for the Sydney Sixers from the first 10 overs, because the side who was ahead at the 10 over mark gets a bonus point. If the scores are level, comparison from the first innings to second, then nobody gets that bonus point. So
I think they might actually get a half point each.
Oh no! Is it a half point?
I think it may. I think it might be 0.5 each.
Oh, I thought I was so across this tomorrow.
Hopefully I've not got it wrong. See, tomorrow's game, Melbourne Stars play the Brisbane Heat. Glenn Maxwell, Chris Lynn, English interest. Dan Lawrence has been striking him in the nets. Saw a video of him batting for the Brisbane Heat. Interested to see how he gets on.
Yeah, looking forward to that game. Melbourne Stars had a brilliant tournament, then fell at the final hurdle. Sydney Sixers, the champions last year, and they're going nicely here. Vince is flicking the ball away off the hips down towards fine leg for 1, and he moves on to 32. 50 up for the Sydney Sixers. They need 129 runs to win off 83 deliveries. You're going to have to forgive us for taking a little while just to get our heads around all of the details of the rules, because this is, you know, it's a development in T20 cricket. Not just one change, but 3 of them. The power surge, the X Factor, the bash boost. The X Factor not featured, no substitutions after 10 overs of the first innings. Swing and a miss from Vince, goes through to the keeper. Good delivery from Boland, who gets a little bit of away movement. The ball goes through to Hanscom. 50 for 1 it remains. Do keep your thoughts coming in terms of what you think of these changes, whether you reckon they'll work, and we might see it wider in franchise cricket around the world.
Did I make that up with the rules, or?
I don't know, Timal. I'm trying to find out, and I'm doing a very bad job of it. Edwards on strike. Into the leg side it goes. Fielded by the man at short mid-wicket. Rebecca Mundy gets in touch at tms@bbc.co.uk. She says, great to have TMS covering the BBL. I'm trying to get my head around the new rules, especially the point for leading at the halfway stage. Okay. If a team leads at halfway and wins the match, how much does it matter whether they earn 3 or 4 points for the win when the opposition hasn't scored a point? I suppose that comes into later in the season, as this is walloped into the leg side by Edwards. That could be 6. It's going to be a massive 6. Heading towards the stage where a band is setting up. The lights are flashing, and on the grass banks they're looking to retrieve that ball as Jack Edwards goes big into the leg side. 56 for 1. What a shot.
Yeah, that's a brilliant shot. We saw some big hits from Tim David in the Hobart Hurricanes innings. This time, short ball from Boland. Just in between. Wasn't quite high enough to be a genuine bouncer. And that's 6 runs.
It's a big 6 runs as well. Boland is in. Dropped into the offside. And the score remains at 56 for 1. Yeah, Rebecca goes on to say, so yeah, if a team leads at halfway and wins the match, does it matter if they earn 3 or 4 points for the win when the opposition hasn't scored a point? Well, again, that goes into how the season plays out, because, you know, over the course of a season, the more 4 points you win, the better off you're going to go. Okay, Timal's got the answer. This is good news. We will, at the end of the over, 1 ball left of it, explain all. Boland moving in, right arm over to Bolter Edwards, up on his toes, single taken to long on, 57 for 1. The score after 7 overs, just 16 runs away from that bonus point at the halfway mark now for the Sydney Sixers. They need 122 runs off 78 balls. Timal.
Yeah, I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to make big statements and then prove them to be absolute nonsense. But yeah, if scores are tied at the 10 over mark, then both sides will be awarded 0.5 points each.
Okay, so we're going into decimal places.
Yes.
Lovely.
You'd hate to come the end of the tournament miss out on a playoff spot by 0.5, wouldn't you?
I can deal with it in the Big Bash. If they start doing this in Strictly, then it's going to be 2. My Decembers are going to go completely to pot. Rebecca, thank you for getting in touch. She continues confusing it. The team leading at the halfway stage goes on to lose the match, and they still get a point. Yeah, you still get the point. If you're winning at the halfway stage but go on to lose, you still get that bonus for a good start. Single taken out to deep mid wicket, and the score 58 for 1 at the start of the 8th over. Darcy Short bowling his 2nd over. Vince will be on strike on 32. It is going to take a little bit of getting used to, but we will get there, and it is one of those things that is simpler when it happens than it is to explain, I think. Punched into the offside, no run. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of explaining it, to be honest. You can, when you're talking about it, you go into all the different permutations, don't you? Whereas when it actually happens, you discuss, you know, what's happening.
It's much like Christmas around the country. We're going to see as Darcy Short moves in, giving himself some spaces. Edwards, nicely played, gets a lot of it. He's going to pick up a single out towards David, who's wearing a yellow cap for being the leading run scorer in the tournament, having played 1 innings of the tournament. It's a good, it's worth scoring runs early in the competition because you get the opportunity of very early of wearing that cap. But we're going to see families playing board games around the country over the Christmas period. Edwards picks up 1 into the leg side. The score advances 60 for 1, and the conversation tends to be, I don't know about your family, Tamal, but mine, it tends to be, look, I know the rules make no sense, just play it and you'll understand it, you'll get the hang of it.
Or you're playing a card game, we'll do a trial, we'll have a trial run.
You'll work it out as we go. It feels a bit like that. Darcy Short into ball to James Vince, is swivelling and pulling away murderously, but there's a fielder in the deep to pick up, and there'll be nothing more than a single out to deep mid wicket. Lovely timing from Vince. He's 34 from 21. It's 61 for 1.
Yeah, they're well on their way to knocking off this first total to get their first point of the competition. Sydney Sixers, they should get there pretty comfortably, you'd think, over the next 2.1 overs. James Vince going really well, and Jack Edwards just starting to feel his way into it. Darcy Short into the end of his 2nd over.
This is met on the full, it's in the air, it's just evading the fielder, square on the leg side. It's Jacks, the Surrey man, who was out 2nd ball of this game without scoring, who's not far from it, diving to his left, square on the leg side. But it is 4 runs and 65 for 1 after 8, and just that mini game within a game. 8 runs away now for the Sydney Sixers from the next 2 overs to ensure they get that bonus point. So Vince 34, Edwards 29. The target for victory in this game, which is of course the bigger prize at the end of all of this, is 179.
Yeah, tidy start for the Sydney Sixers. I think they'll be pleased, a little more circumspect of how they started, but James Vince especially has played some really nice shots. How many times have we said that over the last however many years? But he's looking in really good touch to start off this year's Big Bash. Darcy Short just full toss in the end, and James Vince just swivelling away, pulling that. Jack Edwards, beg your pardon, at the end of the last over. So, as you say, 2 overs to go now. Riley Meredith's going to come in, see if he can break this partnership before this 10-over break.
He's bowling quickly down the leg side. It flies through to Hanscom. That'll be 1 more onto the total. I really like watching Riley Meredith. I think he's one of those cricketers. He reminds me a little bit of sort of slightly in the mould of Lockie Ferguson, New Zealand bowler. Just sort of runs in as fast as he can, flings it as quickly as possible down the other end.
Both rock the big tash as well.
Yeah, I think that might be actually what's done it for me. And created that association. 66 for 1. Roughing into the offside, James Vince. It's a dot ball. But bowls quickly. I mean, that's 147 kilometres an hour. And what's that? That's, you know...
92-ish, around there. 145 for 90 mile an hour. That's always your starting point, and then you kind of make it up from there.
Anything north of 140, I mean, you know what? We must have been touching 100 miles an hour. 66 for 1. Vince is on 34. 113 needed from 71 balls. Vince waiting all in pink. A little bit slower this time. Mistimes it horribly. And runs out towards the distinctive figure of Tim David on the leg side, wearing that yellow cap for the tournament's leading run scorer, having hit a really excellent 58 in the first innings. As fast bowlers, you know, you look at Riley Meredith, how he's bowling. In training, do you have access to a speed gun?
Nah, you don't worry about that in training. To be honest, you're not really worrying about it when you're playing either. It's something maybe you look back on, or you know, obviously you get told about by people watching at home or commentators.
Jack Edwards is pushing into the onside. A throw comes in, almost hits the non-striker's end. The batsman having to get through quickly, but get through he does. Throw misses as well. 68 for 1.
So obviously you want to be bowling quick, but you want to be taking wickets more so. You can bowl as quick as you want, but if you're going at 10 and over, it doesn't make much of a difference, unfortunately. So you want to, in a perfect world, you want to be bowling quick and bowling well.
Meredith. 0 for 12 so far. Vince on 35 goes big into the air, but he's not got the legs. Is it going to land safely? Is it going to go over there? It does go over the ropes. I thought he didn't have enough on it, but that ball just kept on going. It went a mile up and over the leg side, and James Vince picks up 6. And that is now the bonus point as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what pace does. Extra energy onto the ball. It was thick edge. It looked like it was going to go straight up in the air, but it carried maybe a little bit of wind up there to the short side of the boundary. That ball went over by a good few metres in the end. It looked like, as I said, it was going to go straight up in the air, and the Hobart Hurricanes would have a chance to take a catch, but fortunately for James Vince and the Sydney Sixers, went for 6.
Pace taken off the ball, run off the face of the bat by James Vince. He's going to get one more, moves on to 42. Yeah, as we mentioned, that is the bonus point there. They passed the 73 mark within 10 overs. So the first point scored in this year's Big Bash League is for the reigning champions, the Sydney Sixers, who have got the Bash boost. And they've got there by virtue of a good partnership here between Edwards and Vince. And they need another 104 runs from 67 balls. They're well set here. 14 runs, 2 wickets ahead of where the Hurricanes were at this point. As Meredith is in to bowl to Edwards. Right-hander is driving into the ground. Crowd think it's a catch. And it's a bump ball. And the over concludes. 9 gone, 75 for 1. Just on the fast bowling thing, and somebody you know very well from Sussex and Hobart, Jofra Archer. And I remember the excitement in the summer of 2019. He bowled those overs at Steve Smith at Lords, and you know, bowling at 92, 93, 94 miles an hour. And then subsequently in the Ashes series, the pace wasn't quite at those levels, and there was almost the feeling that if he's not bowling fast, he's not bowling well. But there is a difference between bowling well and bowling quickly, and sometimes that can be lost just because you've got the metric of pace.
Exactly, and when people see you bowling at 95 miles an hour, they expect you to do it all the time, and unfortunately it doesn't work like that. Otherwise, every bowler that can bowl at 95 mile an hour would bowl at 95 mile an hour every single time they play. Unfortunately, there's often no rhyme or reason for it. You just, some days you don't have that rhythm, you don't have that energy, or more so the other way, just on those days everything just clicks for you, and you don't often even have to try and bowl as quickly, and then you end up bowling as fast. But you're right, everybody has different ways of doing it, and as I've previously said, you need to bowl well as opposed to bowling fast. Ideally, the two go hand in hand.
Faulkner is in, whipped away by Vince, down to long leg for a single, 76 for 1, Vince onto 43.
Unfortunately, they don't often doesn't often work like that. So, yeah, you've got to cherish those moments and identify those moments when you say, okay, I'm on here and I'm bowling really quick, and then you cash in, because otherwise, it doesn't always work out that way. And as you say, a week later you might be playing in completely different conditions, your body's feeling completely different, and you're not quite able to get to those speeds. Faulkner
bowls a shorter ball this time, and pulling away is it's going to be 4 runs for Edwards. He just got enough on it, and Boland running round, seemed to be treading water as he looked to try and haul it in. It's a boundary, 80 for 1. It wasn't perfectly timed. Similar looking shot to the previous ball, but this time it brings the boundary.
Yeah, not perfectly timed, but perfectly placed in the end. As you say, right between the two fielders. That fine-legged deep square. He's playing a nice little hand here, Edwards. He's taking a back seat in comparison to James Vince, but he's still ticking over nicely, 34 from 27, so still well above 100 strike rate. And the Sydney Sixers now need less than 100 to win.
Yeah, 99 from 64 deliveries. And just to finish that fast bowling point is that the real top performers know that when it's not quite happening in terms of the pace, they can adapt their game to ensure they're still effective, even if they're not bowling as quickly as they possibly want to be. Faulkner into bowl to Edwards, defended into the ground, and there is no run. Would that be fair?
Yeah, but that's a really tough skill, because often if you're a fast bowler and then you're having a day where you're not bowling as fast, you often want to bowl faster, don't you? You think, oh God, I'm not bowling as quickly here. You just don't feel right, and then you often try too hard and you go looking for pace, and then you might lose other things elsewhere in your action. So, that's where you can really kind of that upper echelon of bowler who are able to identify and adapt accordingly.
Worked into the offside, behind square, goes to the hands of the evergreen Johan Botha, waiting at backward point. Lured out of retirement, the former South African international, playing for the Hobart Hurricanes in this season opener. We've got 2 balls left of the 10th over. The score is 80 for 1. The Sydney Sixers need 99 to win from 62. Edwards is on 34. Mistiming the ball into the leg side, inside edge. Won't be more than just a single to bring Vince on strike for the final ball of the over, and in theory, the significant 10th over, which sees at the conclusion of it the side ahead comparative between the innings getting a bonus point. But since the Sydney Sixers are already ahead, that is already done, and we know the outcome of that particular little battle with the Sixers in good state. This is down the leg side. It's helped on its way by Vince, and he's going to pick up 4 to finish the over. A roar of frustration from Faulkner, who can't believe that he's given that looser delivery to finish the over. And Vince is now within 3 of a half century to start the tournament. He's on 47 from 27, and 10 overs gone. The Sydney Sixers, the reigning champions, they're 85 for 1. And they need another 94 runs to win from 60 deliveries. They're in really great shape here. We say goodbye to Mal Mills just for a few overs to give him a break, chance to get a cup of tea. And Simon Mann joins us once again with the coaching staff heading out to the middle. We haven't got the opportunity of the X-Factor substitutions, but still time for the coaches to have their say.
Yeah, and the halfway bonus point, a bit of a damp squib this evening, wasn't really an issue for the Sixers. Are going really well here, 85 for 1 after 10 overs. Some breaking news for you. England's tour of India has been confirmed. The first 2 tests of the tour will take place in Chennai starting on the 5th of February and the 13th of February, and then the 3rd and 4th tests will be staged starting on the 24th of February and the 4th of March in Ahmedabad, which has got a massive new stadium there now, a capacity of 110,000. I'm not sure how many people will be allowed in at the end of February and early March.
There's some talk it could be a day-night test as well.
Actually, I can tell you that, Henry, the 3rd test will be a day-night match. The first time both countries have played each other in a day-night test match. The white ball leg of the tour begins with 5 T20s, all taking place in Ahmedabad. So 2 test matches and 5 T20s in Ahmedabad, 12th of March to the 20th of March. And then the tour will conclude with 3 one-day internationals in Pune. on the 23rd, 26th and 28th of March. So there is a couple of months of bubble for these England players. Well, I imagine they'll mix and match a bit. They'll have to, won't they? They'll have to take some of the test players out of the white ball leg, especially with going to Sri Lanka for 2 test matches as well.
It was a long time potentially for quite a lot of those players in the Indian subcontinent as well, because then you go straight into the IPL almost, don't you? Yeah. So it's quite, some of these players all finished the English summer and have been pretty much on the road, and they will be until the next English summer.
Yeah, we're about to resume after the interval here. So at the same stage, Hurricanes were 72 for 3, it's 85 for 1 after 10. People saying, well, what do you mean? We just had an IPL. Well, of course, the IPL we've just had was the one to make up for the one we didn't have earlier in the year. This is Boland, right arm over the wicket, into bowl to the right-handed Edwards, who hoiks him away into the leg side for 4. No nonsense shot there, taking that ball from just outside the off stump, guiding it away on the leg side, wide of the fielder, running round from deep forward square leg. That was a really good shot, pivoting there, Edwards, on one leg and whipping it away with plenty of bottom hand. So this week we've had 6 test matches confirmed for England, so they're going to play 6 tests by early March. 2 in Sri Lanka and then the 4 against India. Whether they'll have to pick 2 different squads for that, whether they say that some people will play some of it and not all of it, remains to be seen. So 2 in Chennai and then 2 in Ahmedabad, and the third one is a day-night test match. First time those 2 countries have played a day-night test match, and then 5 T20s and 3 one-day internationals. So essentially a full tour of India in India. Sourav Ganguly said he was hoping that would happen, and it is going to happen. Vince stands up and guides that towards backward point, and there's no run. There was some talk that series would take place in the UAE, but will be the situation in India. I presume we'll be back to quite restrictive bubbles again as well. I know that the IPL, when it was covered from India, the sort of huge TV production there, was in a sort of big bubble area in Mumbai for that. So it'll be something similar. 90 for 1 in the 11th over. The Sixers, as Vince plays a low pull into the onside. He's struck that really well. He's hit it so hard that it's burst through the hands of the fielder on the deep mid-wicket boundary. It's come back off the advertising board and come back into play. And Vince has gone to 50 from 29 balls. That was another fine shot. He's played superbly tonight. 94 for 1 in the 11th over. It's 85 more to win from 56 balls for the Sixers, who need 179 to win. Excellent from James Vince. Scott Boland goes in again, up to the wicket now, right arm over the bowls to Vince, who guides it into the offside, dropping it short of the ring on the offside, and collects his 52nd run. This is a good partnership, this. It's worth 93 so far. I did a disservice to Josh Philippi putting him in the naught club this evening. He actually made 1, so that Edwards has bucked the trend of the openers tonight. He's 40 not out. Apart from that, it's 0-0-1 from the 3 other openers this evening. Boland goes in at 95 for 1 to bowl to Edwards, wide of off stump. He drives, gets the thick edge past Hanscom, the keeper, and that's gone away for 4. And everything's disappearing at the moment for the Sixers. It's going really well. That partnership heading towards 100. It's now worth 97. And it's 80 to win off 54 balls, Henry. A couple of words on these batsmen. James Vince originally was a replacement for Joe Denley a couple of years ago, but has been a real hit for the Sydney Sixers. Of course, he was part of England's World Cup winning squad in 2019. This is his 3rd year with the Sixers. He's averaging, coming into this tournament, 28.5 in BBL cricket at a strike rate of 130, and it's come from, that's a good record if you'd played 10 innings, but across 29 innings, that's a really, really solid record. And you can understand why the Sydney Sixers are so keen on him. At the other end, you've got Jack Edwards, who made 192 against England Lions, aged just 19, at this venue earlier this year. So he's a real talent coming through, and somebody that clearly likes batting at the Blunston Arena, but also somebody that is there to look out for. And you can, as we see now, it's power play time, or what are we calling it? Power surge.
And there's a new umpire signal for it as well, which is quite fun. You've got the whirling of one arm,
so
followed by it's almost sort of rolling of the shoulders as if you might be about to and you can go for a swim or something.
Or if you're 55 years old and you want to warm up to bowl or something like that. Yeah. Right, so here we go. And I can understand why they've done it as well, because these two are really in. They're going well. And it means that they've got more overs after this surge to progress the scoring rate. Of course, get wickets lost in this second power play, which is effectively what it is. Then you have to regroup. But they're 80 to win off 54 balls, and we're into 2 more overs of power play now. Vince is on 52. The field's up, of course. 2 fielders outside the circle, and Vince goes over the top first ball. It was outside the off stump, and he's leathered that for 6 over wide long off. Leaning back, smashing it into the offside, down the ground. Another fabulous shot from James Vince. He's on to 58. It was sort of in the slot though from Ellis, and that helped Vince. It's not easy for these bowlers in this situation because the players are in. It's not like the initial power play where you're fresh to the crease. Here goes Ellis, bowls to Vince, goes leg side. The bowler follows him. Low pull from Vince out to deep back with square leg. Jacks is there. Surrey man who made 0 earlier. And the score goes to 106 for 1 in the 12th over. And Vince to 59. And they brought up the 100 partnership as well. That's 6 from Vince, brought up the 100 partnership between these two. Philip, he was out in the first over. It was 2 for 1 when he was LBW to Faulkner. Pressure on Hobart. Here's Ellis. Gone for 19. He's bowled 8 balls so far. It's a slower ball. Good delivery, actually. A dipping slower ball that's turned away for a single. No more than that. And Edwards goes to 45. Again, the throw hits the stumps. That's the 3rd time they've done that tonight, but the running's been good enough to prevent the possibility of a run out so far from these Sydney Sixers batsmen. So 107 for 1 in the 12th over. Also, on the one-pointer, I didn't when I read the regulations, I didn't see the half point.
All right.
I thought it was 1 point if you got there, or 1 point if you didn't for the other side, and then if then the point just went out of the game if the scores were level. That's very full from Ellis. Excellent Yorker. This is really good bowling. Actually, he's bowled 3 good balls in this over, and Vince could do nothing with that. It's into the offside. So if the scores are tied after 10 overs, it's half a point each. Yes. It might not happen very often, so we might not have many half pointers.
As Tamal says, you'd be gutted to miss out on the latter stages of the tournament by half a point, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Mind you, there are 5 teams that can qualify for the knockout stages. It's 107 for 1, 12th over, 72 to win off 50 balls. Vince is on strike, gets another excellent delivery from Ellis, right up in the block hole, and it ran by the boots there, sort of followed him, and it was dug out, and it was another dot ball. So Ellis has recovered well after being smashed for 6 from the first ball. And he actually hit Vince on the toe end there, the left toe end. Really landed his delivery superbly. It's a fine piece of bowling. It's come back well. 72 off 49 balls. Still fancy the Sixers from here though. There's a blue wall of 5 on the offside inside the circle. 2 on the on. Ellis goes in, Vince goes leg side, bowler follows him, and Vince smacks it away to deep forward square leg. It is only a single, and Ellis has responded really well there after that first ball was drilled for 6. He's really found his length, bowling very full into the batsman's feet, and I think he's quite chuffed with himself there, what he's come up with in that over. He's done a good job for his side. 71 to win off 48 balls. 5 Live Sports Extra, BBC Sounds for our Big Bash coverage. Remember, India against Australia next week in the first test, and more Big Bash cricket tomorrow at 8:15.
Just a little bit more on the tour to India that has been announced. Currently, the ECB working towards biosecure plans, so no fans in the ground. The quote from Tom Harrison. who, Chief Executive of the ECB, says we've been delighted with the planning that has been undertaken by the BCCI to ensure the 3 venues in Chennai, Ahmedabad and Pune will be ready to host international cricket in a biosecure environment. Look forward to working closely with them over the coming weeks to finalise those plans.
Yeah, the ground in Ahmedabad, 110,000. That's going to be fun playing with no spectators, isn't it?
But it will be if someone hits the 6 into the top tier.
Rattling around in that ground. Vince on strike, goes to the offside. Boland bowls or follows him. Vince digs it out into the onside for a single, takes him to 61. So this power play not quite working out as they'd hoped at the moment for the Sixers. Vince went a long way to the offside, and Boland bowled a Yorker at his right foot, which is well back, almost level with the stumps outside the off stump. They've come up with 3 or 4 really good deliveries, a combination of Ellis and Boland here. 5 balls left of this power play. Edwards waits on 45. Boland moves in and bowls to him. That's a wide Yorker. There's a peel for a catch behind. Chasing that wide one. Umpire Wilson shakes his head. Peter Hanscom there just took the ball, threw the ball in the air. Whether he scuffed the ground, I have to say, if that's not out, surely this is a wide. Just watching the replay, yeah, that's definitely a wide.
Well, the only argument is, has he just missed it but could have reached it, in the same way as a play and a miss? So it wasn't, I mean, it was wide, but he was quite close to it, and it's actually, he was late on it rather than he
was outside the blue line, clearly outside the blue line, and he didn't go across. You saw Virat Kohli do that in the T20s, where he went across and bowlers bowled it wide. It was well outside the blue line that in those occasions, and wide wasn't called. The umpire said, well, he'd moved across. There was one actually that was almost on the white line. I thought it was a wide. A really poor decision. It wasn't given as a wide. And there's 110 for 1, another single there, just scraped into the onside. This is some excellent bowling, actually. Really excellent bowling from Ellis and Boland. They've dramatically reduced the boundary ball. Boland goes in, that's outside the off stump, as I spoke to soon, or is this going to be a catch out towards long on? It's going to be a catch. Oh, it's dropped. It's dropped by David, wearing the yellow cap for being top run scorer so far in the competition. He fumbled it. It was high into the night sky. He gets a low 5 from one of his colleagues. Not sure why. And this is not very good fielding, really, from David. He had plenty of time to get underneath it. I know it's coming out of the night sky and the floodlights, but you've got to catch those. That's why you come back and practice under the floodlights. That's a poor drop. 112 for 1. Boland bowls, smeared up towards David, who picked it up cleanly, and there's some cheering from the Hobart Hurricanes supporters, and he's got a smile on his face. Well, it was slightly over his left shoulder, but it really should have been taken. Vince has 63, Edwards has 46, 67 to win off 43 balls. 112 for 1, the Sixers, with 1 ball left of this second 2-over power play. Boland bowls ball very wide. That's going to be called wide, surely. Yep, there we go. Umpire Wilson this time says that's wide. But actually, interesting, Hanscom's reaction there, the captain, the wicketkeeper. He applauded his bowler, because I think what he was saying was, okay, I know it's a bit wide, but actually you've almost executed the skill. You've almost got that right, and that's what we want from you. That wide full ball, that wide Yorker. Keep doing that. 66 to win off 43. Boland goes in to complete the over. You hope so anyway. And again, it's very wide, full outside the off stump, but the field is up. And did he make that into a half volley, Vince? I think probably just about, because he went deep in his crease and he full swing of the bat, and he drilled it back past the bowler, and there's no protection behind because the field is up because of the power play, and that is 4 runs to James Vince, who goes to 67. It's 117 for 1 after 13 overs, so Sydney Sixers need 62 off the last 7 overs to make it a 4-point night for them in Hobart. Yeah,
and look at those 2 power surge overs, bookended by boundaries of 6 at the start and the 4 at the end, but in between times you've got 4 dot balls, 3 singles, 4 singles, a 2 in there as well. And it can work in several ways, this, can't it? This power surge. You saw in the Hobart Hurricanes innings, it really gave them the boost they were looking for. It got two batsmen who were already in really firing. Could work in the other way for a side if they feel like they've missed out on the opportunity. It could just stall them a bit.
Falconer bowls. Edwards can't manoeuvre that into a gap. Hits it back to the bowler. And Faulkner picks up. He's gone the whole hog, hasn't he, Faulkner? He's got purple boots as well. Or are my eyes deceiving me? Are they black or are they purple?
They're purple boots, purple socks.
Don't go any further, Henry. 117 for one. Faulkner bowls to Edwards, who drives into the offside. They're off a quick single. This time the throw doesn't hit the stumps, but again they're through. They have run well, these Sixers batsmen. 118 for one. Start of the 14th over. Long time ago that Josh Philippi was LBW to Faulkner for one in the first over. Lots of wickets early on this evening. At the moment, Sixers look well placed to win this match. As we know, in T20 cricket, things can turn around quickly. Hurricanes were 93 for 4 at this stage. And Tim David started smashing the ball around. 58 from 33 balls. Faulkner bowls a back of the hand, ultra slower delivery across the batsman. Was that just inside the line as well? Yes, it was. That was okay. 61 to win off 39 balls. It was good deception from Faulkner. It was wide. It was in that sort of marginal area. Is it a wide? Is it not? Here he goes again. And bowls. There's a shack for LBW here. He's not gone a long way across, James Vince, and he's LBW. Given out by umpire Sam Najuski. And they have their second wicket. And Vince is out for 67. He did go a long way across. It's 118 for 2 in the 14th over, and that partnership comes to an end. Just seeing the replay, did it pitch in line? It's one of those sort of marginal ones for pitching in line. I think it was definitely going to hit the stumps, Midland leg. But it was given out. The umpires made that decision, and as we've established, no reviews in the Big Bash. So Vince walks off, but he's played well. 67 from 41 balls. 118 for 2 in the 14th over. What's your instinct there, Henry, watching that? Did that pitch in line, or did it pitch just outside leg stump?
Oh, it probably, if we had umpire's call, it would probably be umpire's call. It was. I think there was probably enough doubt to suggest that it might have done, but it's slightly skewed by the movement of the batsman in the crease, and that it can sometimes just distract the eyes a little bit from where the ball's pitched, and you can think that it's done something that it hasn't quite. I mean, it was, as you say, going on to hit the stumps, and so in those regards, you know, you are out leg before wicket.
Oh, it's quite good fun with LBW shouts. What's your initial reaction, out or not out? Because that's what the umpire has to do, of course. It was tight for that leg stump, whether it pitched in line or not. Anyway, it's been given out. They'll put the technology on it in a minute. I have to say, I'm really not sure, but anyway, that went the finger. 118 for 2. Daniel Hughes, the captain of the Sixers, is out there. Left hand, elegant left-hander. Pushes his first ball back down the offside of the pitch, and there is no run. Memory of Hughes last season is creaming the ball through the covers time after time for the Sixers at the SCG. Lovely offside player, in a way quite conventional. He's yet to get off the mark. Faulkner 2 for 21. His last ball of his evening, in terms of bowling anyway. Goes in now and bowls to Hughes, who actually drags this into the leg side, picks out the man on the deep mid-wicket boundary, Riley Meredith. And Hughes is off the mark with a single. Peter Hanscom there took the return, and the batsman was out of his crease. I presume the umpire had called over, and Hanscom went to take the bails off, and the batsman was out of his crease, but the call must have been made. So 119 for 2, 6 overs to go, still 60 to win, so 10 and over from here. They've used their power play. It's not done yet. You probably still want to be in the Sixers camp. They've got those 8 wickets in hand. there's some short boundaries, but you know, it still could turn the other way.
It almost.
Here we go. Here's the LBW shout. Oh yeah, I just on the mat. Yeah.
Good decision.
The correct decision. Yeah. Technology says it was the correct decision. The ball did pitch just in line.
The power play, bonus power play, if you like, it does feel like it's almost stalled the Sixers. It's created some muddled thinking, and yeah, there's a lot of different psychological elements to this rule change that could be quite interesting as we watch this tournament go.
There's Meredith back into the attack, ran the wicket, bowls a short, slower ball to Hughes, who guides it round the corner towards fine leg, and they have to settle on a single. Yeah, it's interesting about when you take it. The Sixers have taken it earlier than the Hurricanes, but what both sides have done, they've taken it when two batsmen have been in. You can imagine a situation where it was taken in the last. I wonder if someone would take it in the last 2 overs of a chase, and you could suddenly score. I don't know. Could you score 36 or 40 in the last 2 overs to win a game that you're looking second favourites in? Meredith bowls to Edwards. Oh, he's bowled him. That was a quick delivery. Meredith's got through, and Edwards is on his way for 47. And I just wonder if this game is turning a bit in favour of the Hobart Hurricanes. Couple of quick wickets, 2 set batsmen out. Edwards on his way for 47, and it's 120 for 3 in the 15th over. It's a fine delivery from Meredith through the gate, just clipping the top of the stumps, and he celebrates with arms outstretched and a big smile on his face, only slightly spoilt by that hideous moustache.
That's harsh, Simon. Hideous? There's something sort of Victorian about it. I don't mean the Australian state, I mean very much the era.
Yeah, I agree.
59 from 34. It's amazing how quickly a game can go from looking completely in the control of one side to really seeming like an uphill task. And if Meredith can concede just 2 from the remaining 4 balls this over, new batsman Jordan Silk to face, then you've got a situation where you're pushing up towards 12 and over and that sort of territory, and then it gets really awkward for the batting side, particularly because this partnership is now with 2 batsmen that are faced between them, just 3 deliveries. So there's just a little bit of pressure on the Sydney Sixers now, and I really do feel that the power surge has worked against the Sydney Sixers here. I think it created muddled thinking. We saw James Vince hitting that wild shot high in the air that was put down. We only saw a couple of boundaries in those 12 deliveries at the start and the end. So it feels like they were going along very nicely, and then almost overextended themselves a little bit.
Yeah, here's Silk's first ball, and he's beaten by a slower ball just outside the off stump, and Meredith's got another smile on his face. He's deceived the batsman there. I agree with you. I wonder whether they could have just left it a bit later. But anyway, it's gone now. The decision's been made. And what's actually good is we haven't had uniform decision making in terms of the second power play tonight. Both teams are taking it. The teams are taking it at different stages, and we'll see how that pans out as the competition goes on.
Well, what we might find is that teams learn when the best time is, and it becomes obvious when they're at the optimal point.
Silk waits, Meredith bowls. Silk turns it uppishly into the onside, off for a quick single. Shout the stumps and non-strikers. That would have been out if he'd hit. He didn't. The throw missed from mid-wicket. Silk diving to make his ground. He knew he was struggling there. It was hit straight to the fielder, but there's just a sort of hint of panic from the Sixers. He put the dive in. Let's have a look. Yeah, that was out. If he'd hit, that was out. Put the dive in from a long way out. A long slide from Silk. 121 for 3. Good over from Meredith. Bit of pace as well. Meredith now to bowl to Hughes, short ball that flies through. Oh, it's been called as a wide, and actually Meredith's appealing to the umpire. He said, why? And the reason is, well, it was above the head. Well, 153.5 kilometres an hour. I mean, just looking at that face on, front on camera, it looked fine, but just seeing the replay, I can understand Meredith there not being happy with that decision. Okay, you shouldn't show dissent on the field. And I think there was a bit of dissent there. He was sort of appealing, come on, why? I think he was a little bit unlucky. Meredith moves in, bowls to Hughes, a slower ball, short ball, turned away, guided away by Hughes down towards fine leg, and they are through for a single. Meredith this over is really cranking it up. That was a 127 miles an hour ball. The one before was 153.5.
Yeah, that's over 95 miles an hour.
It's lively.
Well, it is when it's flying at your head, it is.
Yeah, and your new batsman, it's under the lights. And you've just come in, yeah. Hughes 3, Silk 1. 56 to win off 31 balls. 123 for 3. Meredith rushing into ball. The last ball of his third over, that's full. It's in the slot almost, and it's guided away really well by Silk, square with the wicket. They go for 1, they come back for the second. Darcy shorts onto it, sends in the return, and 2 to finish the over. So it's 54 to win from the last 5 overs. Sydney Sixers to beat the Hobart Hurricanes on 5 Live Sports Extra, BBC Sounds. Now we could be in for a really interesting finish here in this first match in this season's Big Bash. 1 point already to the Sixers. Who's going to get the 3? Henry, you'll be joined by Tim Mills.
Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah, it's nicely poised, this game now. It just feels balanced. It feels one more wicket, and really it could be a struggle and a real challenge for the Sydney Sixers. One advantage they have is they know all about winning. They're a side that has had real success in recent times. They won the last competition last year, of course, and so they do know about winning from positions perhaps where things get a little bit awkward. But Timal, whose camp would you rather be in at this point?